everyone. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. So great to see you guys. All right, spill the tea. How did your Thanksgiving baking go? Let me know in the comments below. What went great? What went not so great? And do you have any questions about your Thanksgiving baking? I'm getting organized here for demo and for the questions that came in over the, well, I don't want to say weekend because it was kind of Thursday, Friday, but it did feel like the weekend. Hey, Baker Girl 84, hello, welcome everyone. Again, pop those questions in the comments below. Back. All right, let's get started. I do believe it's 12 noon Pacific. Hello, Salty Sweet Bakes. And Salty Sweet Bakes bakers, she baked a lovely turkey challah that just made me smile. It was beautiful. So please check her out on IG. Her handle is Salty Sweet Bakes, and you'll see her great turkey challah. And because we can do all sorts of bread shapes if we want to, but that was a first for me, and I thought it was fantastic. And also Emerald Cupcake Los Angeles. I don't know if you're on the show today, but really gorgeous, gorgeous dipped strawberries. They were outstanding. I'm sure your customer was just thrilled. All right, you guys. So let's get started. Oh, Salty Sweet Bakes, of course. You do such lovely work, all of you. But not all of you tag me, and I don't always see. So make sure to tag me in your beautiful bakes so I can talk about you on the show and send some love. Okay? All right, let's get started. Well, I'm not seeing any questions in regard to Thanksgiving baking, but I'm going to ask you guys a question, and you're going to put it in the comments below. Of the questions that did come in about Thanksgiving, what do you think I got asked the most about? Was it rolls? Was it pie crust? Or was it fillings? We'll come back to that. Put it in the comments below. I want to see if you guys can, I bet you know. I know you know. So put it in the comments and we'll come back to that. All right. So here's some of the questions that came in, not about pies, over the week and or over between Wednesday and Saturday. One of our bakers asked me, she said, my recipe calls for an 8 by 8 inch pan, and I only have a 9 by 9 inch pan. Can I just use it? Will it be okay? And the answer is yes and no. So when we think about pan size matters. Batter volume or dough volume in relation to pan size matters. So a 9 by 9 inch pan, it doesn't look that much bigger, but it holds 25% more volume than an 8 inch pan. So that's kind of a big deal. So what would you do? You could increase your recipe by 25%, and it will fit perfectly, meaning your bake time should be consistent and the outcome should be consistent, especially if you're like in a book, you're on a blog or you're in a cookbook and there's a picture. If you increase it by 25%, it should look like the picture when it's done or close to it. Now, what happens if you just go ahead and bake? What's going to happen is the product will be thinner, and it's going to bake more quickly because it's more surface area, so the heat's going to circulate around it more quickly, more efficiently, and it'll bake more quickly. So how much more quickly, chef? I would check if the baking time, if the suggested check time, because we know baking times are, they're not written in stone because our ovens are different and the temperature that batter and dough goes into the oven is different and all of that good stuff. So I would, whatever is the baking check time, I would check like 7 minutes before. It'll have to go back in most likely, but I would give it a check 5 to 7 minutes before. I'm going to amend that 7 minutes to check in about 5 minutes. So that's the answer. So can I use my I will learn to talk. Can I use my 9 by 9 inch pan in place of the recommended 8 by 8 inch pan? Yes, you can, but there's some considerations. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And then, as the questions rolled in, and never hesitate to ask questions, please, bakers. That is my purpose, is to answer your questions and make your baking lives better. So anytime, message away. Well, one of our bakers had sourdough, really lots of questions about sourdough starters. And maybe just, getting out of Thanksgiving, having that Friday off, and Black Friday shopping online and not having to fight the crowds, gave our baker a little bit more time to ponder sourdough, which is great. So the question came in, I missed a feeding, what should I do? Well, remember, bakers, your sourdough starter might feel like a baby, but it is not an actual baby. So if you miss a feeding, what you're going to do is just start feeding again. And here's a really good ratio. So we do not need to keep a ton of sourdough starter on hand. Unless you're a commercial sourdough bakery, there's no need for that. And as a matter of fact, it takes a small percentage, like 20 or 22% of the starter compared to the 100% of the flour, getting some math in there for you guys. That's all we need to get our bread going. So we really don't need that much starter hanging around. So you don't get to feeding your starter. All right, not a problem. What you do is just remove all but 100 grams and feed it 50 grams of water and 50 grams of whatever flour you've been feeding it, and get back on track. That is all you have to do. Now, I've told you, bakers, I have left Sophia, my beautiful starter, my romantic starter, in the refrigerator for 9 months and not fed her at all. Well, a portion of her, to see what would happen. And she came right back. I've also frozen her. I mean, she is the Pella Windows of sourdough starter. There's nothing I haven't done to her, and I am always able to bring her back. Now, when you cannot bring a sourdough starter back is when you see red liquid around the edges, like super pale, like when ricotta cheese or cottage cheese gets pushed to the back of the fridge and spoils. Well, when you see red, that's a flag, no pun intended, and that means that you've got spoilage yeast microorganisms in your sourdough starter. So, out it goes. Now, romantic notions aside, Sophia is 58 years old, right? That's a big deal. Okay, that's romantic. But you can get a new starter going in 7 to 9 days, all right? So that was that sourdough question. And then the next question, last sourdough question, was, why do I discard starter? Why can't I feed it? I don't like throwing the starter away. Well, if we didn't discard starter, we would end up with buckets of starter. so we kind of have to. If your discard is healthy, you can add it to other bread doughs, you can add it to pizza doughs, you can use it to make, you can add it to, as a dough conditioner, to other yeasted doughs. And in my archives, I do have some great recipes for using sourdough starter. I just have to dig them out, maybe over the Christmas break, and get those to you guys, because I obviously have some passionate sourdough bakers here in the audience. So, great questions. All right, so now we're done with the notebook, and we are rolling on to demo. So, and thank you all for joining me. I know you could be shopping, you could be doing all sorts of things, so it means the world to me that you are here with me on this Thanksgiving weekend. Let me just check for questions and make sure we're good. Okay, let's see. Pie crust, absolutely. And then PLZ, best pumpkin pie ever. That's awesome. Yes, let's go back to the questions before I start demo really quick. The questions all came in about pie crust. Pie crust really is a bugaboo. Now you guys are all pros. We beat pie crust to death in the past, in early November. So I'm not worried about my bakers in the audience, but I think my bakers that didn't see those shows had some difficulties. And a lot of it came through with partially baking, trying to avoid the raw strip of dough in between your filling and the pie crust. That is really what's beginning to bother people. Remember, if you've got an open face pie, if you're doing like a Dutch apple, or sometimes they're called French crumb pies, streusel, crumb topping, then you can par bake that bottom crust and par bake it lined with beans, and then remove the beans once the crust sets and let it get set, and then you will not have that streak of raw dough. But we discussed this. It's very tricky for a 2-crust pie. So that was what was that was bugging people this Thanksgiving. So I'll continue to work on solutions. And if you made the rolls, put it in the comments. How were your rolls? How did they turn out? Did people go crazy for them and eat too many, which often happens? Oh, I ate too many rolls, right? Did you have a family member say that? I hope so. So please let me know. All right. So now questions are done, and we are going to start demo. So it is time for the official holiday hat. This is my Santa hat. You're like, yeah, Chef Colette, that's obviously a Santa hat. And I wear it all December, usually everywhere I go, to spread the holiday cheer. So you'll see this through December. So now we're ready for demo. For the next 3 weeks, all right, we are going to work on holiday gifts from your kitchen. You know, the media's warbling on about inflation and prices being higher, and they are. We all can agree. I know that my little budget for food I've had to expand that number, or else I'd be like dead here. And I know that's true for all of you as well. So I was thinking, what could we do for December? We can work on a series of holiday gifts, and instead of buying things that pretty much nobody needs, right? There's so much stuff in the world. Let's use our time and our talent and escape into the kitchen and make some yummy stuff. So the first thing on our DIY holiday gift list, shortbread. Good old-fashioned shortbread. And if you want to send cookies across the country, There's nothing sturdier than, drum roll please, shortbread, okay? The other thing about shortbread, no eggs. It's just butter, flour, salt, and vanilla, and that's it. And it's all-purpose flour, which you all have, so you don't even need to get a specialty flour, all right? So we're just going to put this together, and I do have, I'm going to get a little fancy. So this is, calling back to our first question, this is an 8 by 8 inch pan, all right? Now years ago, when I worked at Sur La Table on the weekends and taught all those baking classes that some of you may have been in or helped me with, because sometimes I see my Sur La Table friends in the audience. Nordic Ware sold a series, they sold shortbread pans, and they actually have a snowflake one, and when I typed up the recipe for the website, I put links to these two pans in there, all right? But that being said, an 8 by 8 inch pan works fine. It'll also work in a 9 by 9. It's just going to be thinner and bake more quickly. All right, so for this batch, the non-Magic of TV batch, we're going to use the Nordic Ware shortbread pan. It's really pretty. And I, try to use my stuff as much as possible, and I hope you guys do too, because it takes up a lot of real estate in our kitchens. All right. I don't know if you saw my posts on sustainable baking. I usually do them on Wednesday, but I did a whole thing on butter wrappers. And we've talked about butter wrappers. So I'm just going to grease this pan with the residue from 2 butter wrappers. Okay? One more use before they go into the landfill. I don't know if you can compost butter wrappers, but if you can, if one of you know, let me know. So that's it. Butter wrapper success, that's all you need for this pan. It would probably work if you did nothing, but that worries me. All right, bakers. So I have in the mixer, I have the butter, and it's cool, softened butter. It's not super soft, but it's certainly not straight out of the refrigerator, okay? And I'm going to add my sugar. And there's this new cool trend of toasting sugar in the oven. And I think that's a trend we should explore in 2023. If you're already doing that to get a little bit of flavor into your sugar, I would recommend it for the shortbread. Super cool. Now the other thing that we're adding, we're going to add our vanilla now, because we know as chefs and bakers and cooks, that carries flavor. So if we add the vanilla while we're creaming the butter and sugar, more vanilla flavor is going to go through. Now I'm used a combination of vanilla extract and vanilla bean paste. In the recipe, there's a suggestion for vanilla powder. If you have any hanging around, you can add some of that as well. I just want to show you guys, because I try to be, I don't do any work with brands. I wish I did. I'm really not good with that. I know there's people who are super smart with that. If anybody knows how to do that, let me know. But I came across this vanilla bean paste on Amazon, made by a company called, I'm not sure, vanillabeanthings.com, and this was very reasonable, this nice big 4-ounce jar of vanilla bean paste. And then, always this nice big $20 for this vanilla extract from, if you have a Kroger Market, they might have it. So here's the deal with vanilla bean paste. All right, you guys? Vanilla bean paste, I like to use vanilla bean paste when it's going to count, when it's going to show, because it shows a little bit of poshness. You know, it makes things a little bit more, makes our baked goods a little bit more glamorous, like a vanilla bean madeleine, or, you know, a macaron, or I've just got M things in my head right now. And for the shortbread as well, because shortbread, all the money, the big money's in the butter, so we're just a little bit of enhancement using that vanilla bean paste. That being said, it's perfectly awesome with vanilla extract, okay? All right. So we're gonna cream the butter and sugar and vanilla, and in this case, vanilla bean paste for about 2 minutes. That's it. We don't wanna whip too much air. We want our shortbread to be nice and sturdy. Now, if you think of historic Scottish shortbread, this was done by hand. But we live in modern times, and if you have a stand mixer or a handheld mixer, you can use those tools, all right? I'm going to increase to medium speed, and I'm going to scrape down. And the thing is, you just want the butter to incorporate and the sugar. You want things to combine. But we want to see that bright yellow color. Very, very important. You can make these vegan by using vegan butter, but I have, you know, I've told you I'm teaching a health and wellness baking class at Escoffier, and I'm thinking that what really could help vegan butter is a little butter flavor. So we're going to put a pin in that idea, because sometimes vegan butter tastes very, very bland. I think Earth Balance has the closest butter flavor, but you can also make your own very easily. And that's where a few drops of butter flavor could really make a difference. Anyway, we'll continue that conversation. So look at this, bakers. Here we go. Right, look at this butter. It's still got a beautiful yellow color. Really looks great. It's not, because what happens, that light and fluffy, that's all about the sugar cutting air pockets into the butter, creating these, they get larger and larger, and then the light in the room reflects off the butter, and that's why it looks light and fluffy. I know I'm repeating myself. We've talked about that before, but you know, we have audience members who might not know that. So, all right. Now remember, if you've got when you're creaming method, things get stuck on the paddle. Really great tip, take an offset spatula. This one just happens to be perfect for the season, and we're going to scrape the paddle, okay? All right, we're going to scrape the paddle, and I'm going to dump in the sifted, and absolutely has to be sifted because we don't want our shortbread to be dense. I sifted the flour, and I sifted the salt. And when you see the recipe, when you see it on the website on tomorrow, because I'll publish it tomorrow, I'll have all the photos done, you'll be like, 3 grams of salt? Yes, we need to counteract the sweetness. That is correct. In teaspoon terms, that's like 3/4 of a teaspoon, and most of the time, bakers, our salt in our baked goods is about a 1/2 teaspoon. A little bit more of an increase. All right, I'm dumping in the flour. I did sift this. So let's see, sifter. And I don't want it to fly up in my face, so I'm just gonna low speed, though that would be very entertaining. And it's going to look like it's not going to come together. You could also do this in the food processor. That will work too. I have a question. How many of you have food processors? And do you feel like you underuse them? Food processors, like a KitchenAid or Cuisinart food processor. I know that's a weird question, but I've been thinking about how back in the day, the food processor was used for everything. Anyway, you can DM me that too. All right, so now look at this. I've got flour on the edge. It's not a cohesive ball yet. So what we're going to do is now we're going to work by hand. I'm going to take, you can take your spatula. I'm going to dirty another tool because that's what I do best. And I'm going to scrape down. I'll try to keep the batter in the bowl. And I'm going to begin to mash everything together because I don't want my shortbread to be tough, you know. So I'm just mashing it all together and I'm going to dump it out onto the work surface. And we're going to finish it by hand. Now you don't have to worry, it's not like pie dough. You don't have to think, but my hands are warm. No. This is creaming method. We've got another thing going. We don't have to worry like pie crust. We're going to use a French technique called fraisage, and I'm going to use the heel of my hand, and I'm just kind of going to mash the rough edges together. And you want to be on you want to look for any streaks of raw butter. Now this is looking pretty good, but if you see them, smash them in, okay? If you see them. So here we go, and right away we're going into that buttered pan. So I'm just going to clear my work surface. These are so handy. Okay, and here's my lovely Nordic Ware pan, and we're just going to press this into the pan. It's very satisfying. I love getting my hands in there, you know, it just really feels like you're doing something. And just press, okay? Just press it in there. Now this recipe fits perfectly, so that's good. It's always a good thing. But there is a problem with a cookie like a bar cookie. Well, you know, shortbreads are technically bar cookies, but how do you get that nice and flat? Wouldn't that be nice to get it nice and flat? If you have a little fondant rolling pin from Sugar Flour Adventures, that's a great tool. I could not find mine. Plus, I know not all of you might not have it. I know some of you do, but not everybody. So what can you use? Oh, and actually, bakers, this piggybacks off a question I forgot from the beginning of the show. I had a baker write in saying she wanted to roll out a pie crust, she didn't have a rolling pin. So I asked her, do you have a wine bottle? She said yes, and she used a wine bottle to roll out her pie. So there's always a way, bakers, always. So that I want to just say, so this is a squeeze bottle, and this is a jar from jam that I washed, okay? So these, either one, you know, we all have jars. Use it to roll the dough nice and pretty and flat. That's all you have to do. So don't despair. Don't ever think, oh my God, I don't have the right tools. You do. You do. And if you can't think of it, message me and I'll let you know. Okay? Now this is going to go in the refrigerator. It's best if it chills for about an hour. And it's going to get nice and cold so that the fat melts after the proteins in the dough set up. That's our goal. That's why we chill. We've talked about it before, but I just want to reiterate that, okay? You can go over it one more time after it's chilled. You know, that'll work too, but I'm pretty happy with that. So, and Pistol Packing Mama, she says that when she's up north, she'll use a PVC pipe to roll out dough. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're resourceful. All right, bakers, let me throw this in the fridge. And before I end the show, I'm going to show you how to cut your finished shortbread. In the recipe, the first line is, make room in your refrigerator. And remember, the coldest part of your refrigerator when you're chilling dough is bottom shelf toward the back. All right, so I did not line the Nordic Ware pan. I just butter wrappered it. But for this, for the 8-inch pan, I did line it with a piece of parchment paper. And the other thing I did that I want to point out, when you use a shortbread, when you make shortbread and there's you're using just a regular pan and not a mold, you are going to want to prick the dough with a fork before you put it in the oven. And that creates steam holes so that it doesn't puff and rise. So that's the reason for the fork. And that's very characteristic of shortbreads. If you get a tin of Walker's shortbread as a gift, you see these very deliberate fork tine holes. Okay, so now what you would want to do, like this is the same size as the pan, and you could do whatever you wanted. You could cut fingers of shortbread like Walker's, the famous Scottish shortbread that's everywhere now for the holidays. Or you could cut squares. But you're going to want to get your ruler, and you're going to want to make some decisions before you start cutting. So even though the pan was 8 inches, the shortbread measures 7.5. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to use my serrated knife. This is my cake knife. This is I love this knife. I am going to cut it in half. Okay? And you want to think just like a carpenter. We want to be precise bakers. So I mark the half on the top and I mark the half on the bottom. This is one of our favorite tools. This is a yardstick cut in half. So handy. When you're tooling around, please stop at your home store and get one for yourself, and then sand it because they can get splinters. I'm going to line up my marks, and I'm just going to cut my way through. All right? Let's look at this texture. Isn't that gorgeous? Really, really beautiful. So now what I'm going to do is I'll cut each one of these in half, and then I'll spin it, and I'll cut, well, I'll just do it while we're here. So pop any last minute questions into the chat because we're almost done. I so appreciate you. I never want to waste your time, but I am so grateful to see you. And we're going to just, let me know, are you excited about making holiday gifts from your kitchen? I think it's such a wonderful alternative to shopping. And packaging, my God, packaging has never been more wonderful. And I've got links to that in the blog post as well. Okay, I'm eyeballing now, guys, because now I'm thinking I'm a bad you know what. I'm not measuring. Okay, one more cut. But there's beautiful boxes and treat bags and really, really wonderful packaging out there. All right, isn't that lovely? A beautiful little square of Scottish shortbread, and you could put these in, they're very sturdy. If you've got a collection of tins, I recommend one layer wax paper or parchment paper, another layer of shortbread, and then top them with wax paper or parchment paper to keep them nice and fresh. If you're doing a quick gift run, a gift bag is great. There's boxes, like, they really hold up well, all right? So, and one last thing about them, if you're feeling like you want to use a European style butter, this is the place to do it. This is where the butter shines. So this would be a good time to break out the Kerrygold. Kerrygold, I'm going to tag you because we mentioned you and we do love your butter. But again, our premium butters, Plugra, Kerrygold, all of those, there's other brands as well, Land O'Lakes European. Remember, we use them when butter is the star flavor. All right, now let me see. Do I have any questions? Pistol Packing Mama. Oh, washing the rolling pin. Oh, the food processor. Patty says she has one and rarely uses it. Pistol Packing Mama says, I don't like washing it. That is one piece of equipment I do put in my dishwasher, and I've started using it more. I use one of these. I got this from the 99-cent store because I love the 99-cent store. So many treasures to be found. Very good for packaging too. So we're going to keep our eyes open. I'm going to send you links in the shortbread recipe blog post to all sorts of glorious packaging that won't break the bank. And next week on the Dough Doctor, we're making caramels. Chef Gina has come across from another chef the most fantastic recipe that you're going to love, that if you make for your DIY gifts, my goodness, your friends and family are going to lose their minds. So thank you so much for joining me on today's Dough Doctor. I love seeing you, and I just so appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And tag me in those bakes so I can send you some love. Take care, keep baking, and I'll see you next week. Bye!